Hello, welcome back to Speedicalc. In this video, we're going to show an example of a wind farm. Now, this is an onshore wind farm. It was an actual wind farm done. The name has been changed, pricing has changed, and the location has changed to protect the company, okay? But just to let you know that this is a real project. So here we have our table of contents that we're familiar with, right? And we're going to go to we're in the user template because this is the place you want to start and the only place we have entries, right? And so here's the name, Wild Horses Wind Farm, October 31st, okay, is our data date. And then these are all of our main activities. And then once we have our main activities, we want to have the sub-activities within each of them provided. So first thing you want to do is do this list. This is the setup of the project. So we have our business development, we have our procurement or contracts, we have our Met Towers engineering, permitting, environmental, and so on. And we each provide them a weight of importance, right? And then as we know from the other videos, you can move around easily, and it's better with these larger projects to be able to do this, that we can jump around. If we want to go to the wind turbine erection right away, we can click on the WBS next to it. So we click here, and these are the activities within it. You have your base, your mid, your top, and the cell erected. You set the rotor, erect the rotor, and then you do your tower wiring. And again, we have the weights, start finish date, quantity, and well, it's quantity for this, a quantity percentage, but for this we're following the actual quantities. And I'm pointing this out because what I want to really show in this video is the importance of the calculator being an earned value calculator. So with any other software, when you're doing scheduling, you don't have earned value baked in, right? It's not automatically provided like it is here in Speedicalc. What does that mean? It means that you can't do things like this where you just put the quantity. So we have 200 wind turbines. So when we go through the process and we're going from beginning to end, right? Through that whole process, we can identify, okay, how many of these have actually been done and when they were planned to be done. And then the earned value calculations are done automatically for you, giving you reports with the status with dashboards and whatnot, right? Where if you use scheduling software, what you have to do is you're going to have 200 lines for each of these, right? So you already have 200 for sure here for all of these, but then you're going to have their foundations and whatnot. So let's go here. So we have our civil works, we have our turbine foundations, excavation, mud mat, rebar, the cement, earthing kit, the base pour, the pedestal pour, and then backfilling it. So all of these, so you have all of these activities, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And this is just one. And then they're going to have 8 times 200. So you're already at like hundreds of lines on your Gantt chart, where here it's very clear, right? We have 200, which go to with all the turbines. And it's extremely simple to follow it this way. And again, it's accurate. You have all the information provided for you because it is it's an earned value calculator. So instead of driving yourself crazy using a Gantt chart, which I understand that companies want to see this, but they want to see it because they want to see, okay, when was the first one done, the second one done, and they follow that timeline along with the Gantt. With this, you'll see that you can do the same exact thing, but what the beauty of it is that you can see the percent completion along the way instead of figuring it out on your own and having to have everything basically pulled apart one by one and following it piece by piece. It's just, it turns into thousands of line items on a Gantt chart. Overhead transmission line. So let's check this out. Look at this. This is real, meaning that there are 460 poles. So you have to dig 460 holes. Now, what are you going to do on a Gantt chart? You're going to follow this along and have one for each hole. Yeah, yeah, that's what you're going to do. So we've already got like over 1,000 line items from just the turbine section. And then we're going to do the transmission line section, and it's going to add basically another 500, right? Install insulators. Look at this, right? Hot clamps. You can have quantities that you do and so many in a week, for example, in a Gantt. However, you're still not getting away from having multiple lines for something that's the same activity. And then what are you gonna? You don't have the weights on your Gantt, right? Nothing. You can have them, but it's not tied to earned value. So that's your problem, and that's where you're going to have to do a lot of manual calculations. That they're going to be rules of thumb, because everything, you're not looking at the whole project because you're not a computer, and your brain cannot function that well. Even AI, you would have to set it up for it to function, and there's nothing out there that can set it up. So Speedicalc is the way to go. Another example here, look, we're mixing quantities and percentages with the same overall activity. What's the beauty of this is that the program will put this into apples to apples, where right now quantity is an apple, percentage is an orange. So they're not the same, but you need to combine them so that they're all a type of percentage so we can see our progress. Speedicalc does that for you. Okay. All right. So those are examples pointing out the main points. Okay. So let's get into critical path method now. Don't get overwhelmed here when you see it. So I'm going to zoom out just to drive you a little crazy. So you can see everything that's highlighted. That's what we're following along. But remember, each of these are the same. It's the same format, right? Same format, really easy to follow. They're your activities that you put in, you understand it, and you know which activity comes before and after another one, right? So really not that difficult. It is a lot of information, which is why you want something like Speedicalc to do it for you. Because if you try to figure everything out from a Gantt chart, what you're doing is just little pieces here and there, trying to put it together for a report that you have to do, which again Speedicalc provides for you. All right, let's just take a look real quick, and then because this is not the purpose of the video to go through all of these one by one, and again you're going to know your project better. So business development is the first thing you want to do. This is to get the project approved. This is the project that we're going to do, right? And so it gets presented. Now they do their homework, and we can take a look in all the business development activities. They do a site survey. They get FAA permits for the turbines so that they know that they can put them there. They get city permits, state permits. They do all of these different things. Landowners, they have to get the leases. Once they do all of these things and finally get their project approved, then you can start working on the project. So you're obviously not going to do anything before business development. So there is nothing before it, right? And then the next thing that you want to do after you get the approval is you want to start doing some of the contracts. So, okay, we got the project approved, we're ready to go. So we're going to start doing the procurement phase. So what comes before procurement? Business development. One of the next ones is the Met Towers. So we're going to put these up. We're going to get data for the best locations maybe of some of these wind turbines. This could be a business activity, business development activity, but here we have it after it was approved. So we're going out and we're going to collect data from these Met Towers, and we're going to find best locations where we're going to put them on the land. And then we also have the environmental piece. So as you can see, if these come after, then all of them, those activities must have business development before it. So those match, right? So 2 is a 1, business development. 3, business development. And 6 has business development all before, right? That's a predecessor. So once those are done, we'll get into our engineering. And so engineering must have the procurement done and the Met Towers done before they can do their work. So that comes before. And then what comes after are permits. Okay, so once we get all of our permits, the engineering we identified, then we can actually start doing some real stuff. Then we get in, then we can do actually the work of the job. So then we have our demolition. We can start prepping the land and whatnot. We can build our operation and maintenance building that's on site to help manage the wind farm when it's completed. We can start civil works. We can do our transmission line. We can do all these things, right? Substation. So that's all. You have your engineering again, then your permits to do everything, and then let's go. So all of this makes sense. Those activities come after, and then again, they're going to match. So every one of these will have permits before it, right? And you can see that here. So this all makes sense. And this is how you need to do your project and connect everything. It all needs to make sense. If something comes after, then it's obvious that what that activity requires, that that other activity must come before, and so on, right? Okay, so this is just following suit. Then we go into, and this is all clickable here. So let's say, just to show, like just like the WBS before, we could jump around. Since it's a large file, it's easy and nice to just be able to click here, and I'll go straight to my civil works. I want to jump back. You click the this icon here, and it'll kick you back to the very beginning. And it's like, okay, I want to look at substation. Okay, click the substation, and here you are. Okay, and then so you can see this makes sense. Everything's in order or sequence. You do the grading, subgrading. After that, you can do the foundation. After that, you can do the rebar, concrete, and so on. So all of these you can see are in sequence. So nothing, requires a lot of multiple connections there. Everything's in order. I do one thing after another. So that is very well the case in a lot of things. Then let's take a look at permits. So permits, once we get our FAA permits, then we can do our right-of-way and all these things. So you can see there's nothing after them, right? And that's because these are their own standalone permit. So it's not required to get one of these other permits, a town permit, after you get a right-of-way. That doesn't make sense. So you just do what it makes sense for your project, and only you're going to know that. But once you get the FAA permits, which says I can put my wind turbines here, then you can start doing the other things because that makes sense, right? But these are all standalone, so they all have this here because we don't want to start them until we know where we are going to locate our wind turbines. But in some cases, maybe it is just standalone and you don't have anything before or after. Let's take a look at, let's see, environmental, right? So look, we don't have anything here in environmental because our bird survey is its own thing. The bat survey is its own thing. Endangered species research and these others, they're their own thing. So they don't have anything before or after. But you do need to have this done, right? You need to do business development before you can even do these activities. So on the main activity, it makes sense. But then afterwards, nothing else. Once we get those done, we're good to go. Okay? So it's just some of these other main activities before we can actually start breaking ground. All right? If you did have a requirement, though, and your company or whomever says, no, we need to, before we can do anything, we have to have confirmation, then that's how you'll connect it, right? Okay, let's move on. Again, I don't want to get too deep into this because we've done it in other videos where we broke it apart piece by piece. But here we have our sub-activities of each of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right, is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that's all of these guys. And then once we get into those, this is business development. So we're in business development. Then we have 1.01, right? 1.01, 2, 3, all the way down, right? So that goes across. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, right? All down the line. Everything is consistent. It's just whatever that activity is where you'll put your actual forecast, right? And for this example, this portion is already completed. And so if we scroll down, we find that yellow bar. That's where we are today, right? That's our data date, October 31st, if you recall. There it is, right? So we just keep following along for all of them. It's the same, right? Same setup, so everything is consistent, makes sense. We scroll down, and this is the week of. So once we get deeper in our project, we'll see, here we are. This is what's currently going on. We're still working on these activities, so this falls in this yellow line. This is where we are in the project as of now. Everything prior is already completed, so easy to follow along. Okay, and now that we've done that, this is our setup. So let's get into the whole project, right? So now that we're done with the setup, now we can, as you know, just go in here and we can verify how everything's starting to look. So we go to our CPI, SPI, and we can see the status of all these activities and how they're performing, right? So these are all the activities, and we knew we were a little deeper in our project, but here we can already see what's in progress still, what's been completed, right? And if it was on schedule or budget or not. Let's scroll down a little bit. This one's in progress, so we're done with the overhead. We are in progress. It's behind schedule and over budget, so that's something that we're going to want to pay attention to, start working with the team. Capacitor station, this is going well. It's in progress, on schedule, and in budget. So these types of things, this is what you want to see when you're managing a project and you're currently in progress, right? So this tells you from a bird's eye view as a manager what's going on and what its performance is. So this is something really good you're going to want to look at. You have a dashboard, so right, instead of creating it every time, trying to figure it out from your Gantt chart, again, it's already done for you. You could just print this off. This tells you how you're doing for the project itself, right? And then we have our table chart here, which shows our, zoom it in here. We have what's completed. Everything green is our forecast, and then we have the schedule as well, right? So, and we have other videos on this if you want to go deeper into that. Then here's actual progress, right? This is what we plan to do. This is where we're at right now. This was the baseline. This is a late finish. And then for the budget, we have, zoom in. Everything is here, right? So what was our target as of today? We were planning to be at 330. As of now, we actually have only paid 282 million. Okay, the baseline was 293. So we haven't maybe made as much progress, or that just the payments haven't been made as of yet. All right, but that also equates to the likelihood of having a higher earned value because you're getting more done than what's been paid for, right? So your progress is moving along really well. Okay, now this is for the project itself, but now we want to look at some of these other ones in detail. So we want to look at our business development, which is done already. We know this. So we go here and let's see the status in budget. Great. The budget was this. The actual spend was this, right? This is all the information you need to know about this activity. As we can see, completed, on schedule. So you have a record now of all the performance of everything already here, okay? And that goes for everything. We have a Gantt chart, as we know. This is when everything was done. So we have a record. This is where we are today, the line. And then this shows the WBS of each of these activities and the completion, what was planned, actual. So if you're in progress, this will vary. But this is showing what actually happened. This is the actual, this is what we planned, this was the baseline for all these activities and how it went. So if you get audited or you just want a reference, which is always good to have when you're doing another similar project, another wind farm, you have this kind of thing to say, okay, where did we go wrong maybe, or where do we have room for improvement, and you can look back. We have our earned value, right? It shows this. I had to turn the mic back on. So again, as you know, let's double click on this. It looks like it got cut off. We're going to just put 1 here for January. Right, and here's our whole chart. So we could see how the earned value looked all along the project. This was the actual costs made versus the plan. And this is how it looked for every single one of them, right? So they all varied a little bit. Again, we can adjust this. We could see, pull this into perspective. You have the opportunity to do this yourself as well, right? So I'm going to zoom in. So again, the beauty of this calculator is you can see progress of each of these activities. And then, as we know, with their percentage of, we'll go to the main category, all these weights that are applied to each of the activities, right? That's what is also incorporated into the earned value. So this puts an adjustment on everything accordingly. Now let's go back to earned value. So at all of those different weights, with their progress, how things were going, they all merged together will get you this, right? So if all of those activities had a baby at these percentages, this is where you're at. And this is something that you will not get with any other third-party software. Okay, so this applies across the board with also our schedules and budgets as well, right? They all have, well, you can't put a percentage on a dollar, right? A dollar is a dollar. But your schedule is totally applicable. So let's just put this in perspective here. All right, so here we go. We can see this is the progress, this is the combo. So we have our schedule and our budget information laid on top of one another so we can see them together, right? And again, if we want, all we have to do here is update this, which we've shown in other videos, and you can get all this information, right? So we can say, okay, this is ending in, we'll call it March 15th. 11th is fine. 2021. And let me highlight this here. Right, and we can blow that up. So you can zoom in as much as you want. But yeah, you can do this across the board. Again, you just have to adjust it to your actual dates that are per these dates here, right, that you have. So again, the Gantt, so you have that provided for you. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole thing. This is provided for you. You can see all the progress along the way. Let's go to earned value. So we've done all this before in other videos, so we're not going to get into that. Just to show you in such a huge project what the value is there, right? All right, let's go. That was the first one of many activities. Let's go to, what was it? The substation, was it? That was in progress, or likely the wind turbine erection. So let's go to 14. So 14 is our wind turbine erection. Let's see how that's going. Going pretty good. So looks like everything is getting paid for. And the schedule is doing a little better than what was planned. That we know just for seeing this, but doesn't mean that every activity is doing that. So let's take a look at them all. Let's zoom in. So the base is going well. The mids are going well. Tops and cells are going really well. Well, payments and whatnot, but yeah, you're ahead of schedule. Rotors, let's keep going. Good. Okay, now here, look, we're behind schedule here on the rotors being erected. So we're doing so great, we don't want to fall behind. This is a great tool to say, all right, we're not doing bad, but we're slipping a little bit. What's going on? Could be weather, right? But this gives you the opportunity to say, as a manager, all right, we're falling behind, we need to get on schedule. Maybe we need additional resources when the weather gets better, if that's the case. Whatever the case is, but this is what you do as a manager, right? The only way you're going to have that insight is with something like Speedicalc. All right, and then we go through everything else. Looks good. This isn't being used. All right, so it's really this piece. So again, don't get fooled by this or a Gantt that you can't see it. But here you can see it. And again, the overall status, you can say going great. But you as a manager, you don't want to fall behind and like, okay, so what we need to do is we need to focus on this piece, right? Okay. Again, with the Gantt, this is the progress of all of them. Have a little bit left here in the tops. Looks like we're basically wrapped up, finished with the setting of the rotors. But erecting them, yeah. And then we got to do the tower wiring after that. And it looks like it's coming off a little bit here, right? It's coming a little bit later, not much, but again, something you want to follow along as a manager. This is what you planned. This shows actually to the T. So as of the data date, you plan to have 85% done. And again, just like I mentioned before, third-party software, you're not going to be able to tell, basically. But here you can. You can say, okay, we're not doing bad, but we are slipping. And it's off by 3% as of what we currently planned as of this data date, right? Okay. Earned value, same type of thing. Zoom out here. There we go. Okay. Same thing. We can see all the status of earned value for every single activity. And then when they're all married up and at the percentages provided, then we can see how it merges together as a whole. Sorry. All right. This one looks like we just need to put the right dates. So let's just put go just to kind of get things on the same page. Like I can start maybe August. All right. So there we go. And you can do this for all these. Just put your dates, and again, we showed this in another video how you do that. All right. So that's it. That's really pointing everything out. This gives a little insight into, again, such a large project. Again, we're like a $350 million project, and we can see the whole thing. We can actually envision, we can view our whole project, we can drill down, we can see how activities are performing and go down to the sub-activities so that we can really better manage our projects. I hope this helps, and see you in the next video.